Welcome everybody to the Horror Meets Sci-Fi panel, because science is already scary. If anything goes together like science fiction and horror, it's like peanut butter and jelly. It's wonderful. So first off, we're going to start by introducing my distinguished panelists, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves. I'm really lazy. I'm moderating. I don't know anything. I'm going to start down on that end.
Okay. My name is Jeff Carroll. I've written the book Thug Angel, Rebirth of a Gargoyle, and it is a story where gargoyles hunt down werewolves and vampires. It's like Underworld meets Training Day.
I'm Chris Berman. I'm a science fiction author and now horror author and also military historian. This was my first book, my alien invasion book, Hive. My second book, I don't have it to show you because I've sold out of them. It's Red Moon, which is a science fiction technique thriller for competition of the resources of the moon between a U.S.-led coalition and the Chinese. Star Pirates, this is about a 17th century pirate that's kidnapped by aliens and becomes part of an interstellar pirate ship's crew and eventually the captain of an interstellar pirate ship, but when he decides to come back to Earth through some time ships, now it's the 21st century. Ace of Aces takes 5 actual Second World War pilots. They're kidnapped out of the timeline to fight a war 280 years into the future. And the latest book is Condosaur, which is my first real horror novel. It's got a little science fiction in it, but it's mostly horror about the prehistoric predators loose in South Florida.
I'm James McDaniel. I'm an author of 3 books, one of which being a novel. Everything from horror to fantasy. Lots dealing with the god of death and all kinds of mayhem. And there's lots of sci-fi thrown in there, short story forms that I may or may not have the rights to anymore, thanks to ghostwriting. But they are out there, and I love all 3 genres. So.
I am Indy McDaniel, and I have written my first novel, which is a sci-smut horror-fi novel. Because science fiction and horror just weren't enough genres to blend together, I needed one more, so I made it sex. Right? I mean, if sci-fi and horror go together like peanut butter and chocolate, then add the sex in, it's like Neapolitan ice cream. It's amazing. So, yeah, that's this, which is awesome, and you should get it. The end.
I'm Al Goingback. I've been writing professionally for like 25 years, which means I'm really old. Specializes in horror, fantasy, and science fiction. Children's books. I've done screenplays. Pretty much looked at everything. Won a few awards, Bram Stoker Award. I'm a science fiction geek. I'm a monster kid, and I'm damn happy to be here.
We're damn happy you're here. I'm Pete Rawlik. I am a working environmental scientist for South Florida Water Management District, and I decided to do something a little bit on the side, started writing professionally 3 years ago, published 30 stories, have another 30 in the grill, and my novel came out in September, Reanimators. I write cosmic Lovecraftian horror.
I'm surprised you didn't say that.
Cosmic Lovecraftian horror? I can do Finagla Magla Who Rai Magla Kanga.
Speaking of tongues now,
There you
stop.
go.
Bless you. Science fiction and horror has been around forever. I mean, it's been part of the genre for a long time. I mean, Frankenstein was considered the first science fiction novel, and it's definitely a horror novel. So we're going to get our geek on here and start talking about some of the classics. And I want to start with alien invasion stories.
Oh.
Like War of the Worlds.
H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds. That is the first of the genre where the writer is looking at aliens as hostile invaders. And that genre has gone up through years and years, including me with the Hive. But one of the best, like I said, best modern takes on the alien invasion story was Jerry Purnell and Larry Niven's Football.
With the elephant creatures,
Yes.
very much. War of the Worlds fascinates me because, I mean, it's the only story or was released as a radio play, and it scared the crap out of America. I mean, that's quite an accomplishment. You had people wanting to commit suicide, but they thought the Martians were coming. Here we are with our scientific minds and always wanting to reach out to the universe. But we're scared to death that the aliens are going to come down and inhabit our bodies and wipe us out. All the old stories were alien monsters. They were horrible. It wasn't until Spielberg came along with Close Encounters that we'd actually start seeing aliens. And I grew up on the 50s movies, and the Blob. Wonderful alien things. I married a monster from outer space. I mean, Invasion of the Body Snatchers. So it's great. I love these times.
The invisible invaders.
Invaders, very much so. I mean, not only in fiction, in movies, it seems like that was a staple of the 50s and early 60s. We had a constant science fiction and horror. We didn't have much in the way of science fiction unless it was scary.
Well, how about this one, The Brain from Planet Eros?
Yeah. Actually, the one I really like, and it crosses a lot of genres, is the monolith monsters. It's such an overlooked film because it's really a kaiju movie. It's a giant they're not actually animals or vegetables. They're just rocks that grow, but they grow to titanic proportions, and then they fall forward, and it all starts all over again. And they just march through the whole landscape, destroying things.
That was one of Universal's movies who were known for doing classic scares in science fiction. The giant growing crystals. Who would have thought to be scared of a rock? Towns running, little kids screaming, Godzilla, Godzilla! And they were destroyed by salt water.
Salt water, yes.
Very classic.
One of the ones that I like, it's really hard. It's like zombie stories, the alien invasion stories. They're told so many, you don't even know different ways to look at it. But even in modern times, I saw one from England, Attack the Block. And
Attack the Block was excellent.
And I think it was so creative. Again, I love to see myself in stories where I lived in England with little gang black kids. They were really cool. But the story element went beyond just being an exploitation flick and gave us a different reason for the aliens to come to Earth. So that was really cool. And then I'm a big Gamma fan, and everything doesn't have to be animals or small human fightable animals. Sometimes you meet Godzilla and other big monsters that fight the big three-headed Zero, I think was his name?
King Ghidorah.
Zero, King Ghidorah.
Yeah,
King
Ghidorah.
Ghidorah.
Don't forget
Yeah.
Mothra.
Yes, I mean, I'm kind of upset with Pacific Rim that they came from underneath. I thought they were going to come from above. But even though it was a porthole.
Yeah, well, they basically came from both.
Yes.
They came from underneath from a portal that led to above.
But yes, all types.
It was an interesting take on the alien invasion story was the Andromeda Strip, because that wasn't an intelligent alien or anything else. It was an alien virus that was accidentally released into the Earth's ecosystem, and anyone who got near it died. And that was a really creative story.
I mean, even Night of the Living Dead, when I boiled it down to the alien invasion story, because the zombies were created after a satellite crashed to Earth and released a virus. So it has that science fiction spin in there. So, okay, they're global aliens, but it's still an invasion story, and it's still affected from something from outer space.
And Maximum Overdrive.
Yes.
Which is
Alien invasion story.
giant trucks coming to life.
Everything comes to life.
Yeah.
Every machine comes to life. But
electronic device.
One of my favorites was a Thing from Another World, the original, because it was in the Arctic. It was in an isolated situation, and it wasn't a complete invasion, which we had one alien. They found the ship under the ice. It was a terrifying movie. They had the science fiction elements that you needed, but they're fighting a creature, and they don't know what it is, and they're isolated from the rest of the world.
let me just expand on that one because that's based on Joseph Campbell's.
Who Goes There?
Who Goes
Goes
There?
Yeah.
There is a great sequel to that by Peter Watts called Things, and is the retelling of The Thing from The Thing's point of view. and he cannot understand why everyone's attacking him. All he wants to do is, he is ultimately terrified of these things because they are alone. They are individuals, and that, from his experience in the universe, that doesn't work. That is horrific to him. And he just wants to bring them on board.
You gotta wonder about our mindset that during these periods when these movies are coming out, the aliens are always the bad guys. And you gotta wonder if it's like DC Comics, their science fiction stories they did where they're horrific monsters. Or maybe the Mars attack trading cards we had when we were kids, but we just start being afraid of aliens.
And I think probably the most popular friendly alien hasn't been given alien treatment, and that is Superman. What I like about what Marvel has done with X-Men, they made it more realistic. They're mutants and we're going to trap them and we're going after them. But they haven't done that yet with Superman, and we don't look at him as an alien. He comes to Earth, he's a hero for us, and nobody says, does he have a virus? Who is this guy? We wore, what was it, the one, just remade it, but with the alien that broke up into different pieces and started spreading like a storm. I can't remember, it was a remake. But that's what I think that they would do with Superman, put him in some type of big container and keep him away from us because we should be scared of him. And that would be our reaction. But nobody is. They find out who he is, and Lois Lane is falling in love with him.
Well, recently there's been a whole spat of alien invasion movies. Independence Day in 1997, and then there was Battleship, and then Battle for Los Angeles, and hostile aliens invading the Earth. They actually did a study. Would it be possible? I think DARPA did a study. Would it be possible to confront or do anything in the case of us running into a hostile civilization, which Stephen Hawking said, was entirely possible. And you look at the technological difference in just 100 years from the military technology that existed in 1914 at the beginning of World War I to the military that exists now at say like 2014. If an alien civilization had 100, even as little as 100 years difference than us, 100 years more in advance, we would be just wiped flat.
Well, we would react like in the movie The Day the Earth Stood Still. I mean, we got an alien coming in peace, and the next thing you know, the ship's surrounded by tanks. And I think the military would be terrified. Anything with advanced technology is a threat. And like Hawkins talked about, the aliens. Look what happened with the American Indians when the whites arrived from Europe. They were basically wiped out. Like that's superior technology. So yeah, if a spaceship lands, I'm not going to be holding the sign saying, "Well, bring back Elvis, welcome ET." I'm going to the hills. I want to know what's going to happen first.
And you know something that's interesting too. You look at the Spanish coming into pre-Columbian, into the Incas and the Aztecs. They were advanced cultures with advanced technology, but the technology and the cultural mindsets were different.
The Incas didn't have a wheel.
That's true.
But, here's an advanced civilization, an empire that spans thousands of miles, but they don't have the wheel because they don't need it. It doesn't work in the mountains. So for them, it's a children's toy.
I do think a lot of it has to do with your particular mindset as a culture, especially when you bring up the Native Americans, because I personally feel it's stupid to fight an alien that comes to your planet and you can't travel out of your own atmosphere. What makes us think that we could actually fight some civilizational world that can actually travel to our planet? To me, I would just say, hey, let's be friends, and try that approach as opposed to the cocky thinking our tanks and our nuclear weapons can do some harm to some civilization, some world that can travel from another planet. And I just think that has always been looked at as the intelligent response. And in my logical thinking, that is stupid.
Well, I mean, if M. Night Shyamalan has taught us nothing other than this, it's that intergalactic spacefaring creatures can be stopped by pantry doors
Yeah.
and water people,
Yes.
and Joaquin Phoenix.
That's,
And I think that's all we need.
that's something that I'm not trying to bust it.
Oh, come on. This is, you know.
I never liked that movie and I got criticized, but it's like, why the hell would it come to?
Which one?
To a
Science?
planet made of water.
Yeah, okay. You can beat them with water, but they come to a planet that's
Yeah.
80% water. That
Yep.
made no sense.
Exactly.
And I don't want to hear another alien invasion story where the aliens are coming for our water.
Absolutely.
Because
Stop it, type, pick it up.
I just read a couple of days ago, and they've done more analysis on Jupiter's moon, Europa. It has twice as much water as our planet. It has oceans 60 miles deep.
Yeah.
So why would anybody want to come to a place where, you know, somebody might be shooting back at you?
Let's go make clones. Oh, that's another.
I mean, Chris, you raise a good point. There's actually very little that we can offer that can't be easily manufactured by any race that could, you know, have
Don't
enough
ask the
energy.
humanoids from the deep.
Well, it's interesting that you mention that, because I had in some really nasty aliens show up in Star Pirates, and I had to give them a reason why they were coming here. And
Mars
my
meets
main
Women?
character is trying to explain, you know, no, they're not coming for your planet, they're coming for you. They want to turn you into conscript soldiers to fight their expansion wars. You'll become slave soldiers.
And that's what John Ringo did in his series.
In the Beatles?
They are books.
Like that story To Serve Man.
Right.
Aliens came, oh, we're going to take you people away, do these wonderful things.
Yeah,
and
we're-
they were going to eat them, basically. You know? To Serve Man is a cookbook. You know, we translated the title. So the whole thing, everybody getting on a ship, yeah, we're going to Disneyland and going to eat breakfast.
I like the Predator alien invasion, which just comes to
Sport.
just like this good old jungle, and we just make good prey.
Well, seriously, if we could travel other planets and find, you know we'd be doing it.
Not if Peter has it. They'll have a galactic division.
Now look, except the PETA people.
They haven't met
The X-Files take on it. I mean, making deals with our government to find this cure for this virus, it's like an external issue that you really don't know about. And so there's lots of horror and sci-fi elements mixed together in that.
Well, this is the whole secretive, the secretive alien invasion. I mean, where they conquer from within. So many times where they come down and they look like us, invasions of body snatchers.
Yeah.
They live.
What
Remember
about
the old TV series, The Invaders?
Yeah. I love that
They
show.
looked like us, except what they couldn't move their pinky or
Yeah.
something like that.
What about the Men in Black type aliens, where they're already here, they just change all of a sudden, and they fit in, and the universe works well with them fitting in. Because, you know, there's good and there's bad ones, and we have the Men in Black to sort of police them. That was interesting. I know they made a silly movie.
What about the one movie where the guy takes on, like, put on glasses and all the different...
They live.
They live,
Oh,
yes.
Roddy Piper.
That was, that was a
Everything was
really interesting concept. But you know something, when you're also talking about science fiction and horror, etc., look at some of the other films that don't involve aliens. Look at something like The Terminator. 1984, when they wrote that, autonomous machines that were flying around and zapping people on the ground, and hunter-killer machines and robotic devices like that. We have that now. We have stuff where you have semi-autonomous drones flying around that can take you out like that. So a lot of the stuff that were the subject of either books or films now is really, it's reality.
Gravity. 50 years ago, Gravity was sci-fi, now it's not.
Oh yeah, that's very true.
One of the predecessors for the Terminator films was this horrible movie called Colossus: The Orbit Project, which was based on
Good book.
3 books.
Yeah.
Which it's if you can find them, the books are really worthwhile reading, because essentially the United States and Soviet Union both build supercomputers to run their militaries for them. And the moment they're turned on, they talk to each other and say, "Yeah, we got to take over." And they both take over, and through the course of the next 2 books, they just decimate the human race and forced labor camps. They're building rockets and weapons and whatnot, and it seems almost 1984-ish, is that you're building weapons that you're never going to use. Well, it turns out in the very first 30 seconds of talking to each other, they both agreed that Earth was about to be invaded by aliens, and the only way to convince and prep the planet was to take over and do forced labor. So you think that they're the villains, and they're not. They're doing the best they can to save the planet.
Push the panic button.
It's a really good set of novels.
Thing about the Terminator movie, I really enjoyed the Terminator 2 took it to a whole new level because you had the shape-shifting robot from the future.
Yeah.
So now you had not only an alien invasion from the future, they could look like us, or look like anybody in the room. So you had that other element of horror, that whole invisible alien amongst us kind of thing.
I like iRobot. We talk about the supercomputers taking over. I explore that as a future story, but I love just that simple fact that man is too dangerous for man, and to keep perfect.
Well, excellent sort of example of science fiction horror would have been the first Alien movie with Sigourney Weaver. That was really dark and claustrophobic and really sort of terrifying too. But then you looked at the second movie in the sequence, Aliens, and that was a very, very well done movie. And
But it's a war movie.
the whole idea of these sort of insect-like creatures that went through these different stages of metamorphosis. I mean, there is a type of wasp that lays its eggs inside a caterpillar, and the eggs hatch inside the caterpillar, and the larvae eat their way out of the caterpillar. So it's really based on actual biology, zoology, etc.
Can I go trash you just for a minute?
Of course.
Because we're talking about aliens, and I love Aliens. Aliens 2 was probably one of my favorites. But let's go trashy horror meets science fiction. And all month we've been watching Jason movies, and Jason X gets undercut. And it's such an interesting concept. I think, when you talk about horror and science fiction, nothing better than a demon going up against a robot.
In outer space.
In outer space, G-gravity.
I thought Leprechaun 4 in space was more.
So I'm going to save this for the So Good It's Bad, but Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
seriously? That is a great freaking movie.
No, I'm sorry I'm going to miss that tonight, but my vote for that would be The Attack of the Giant Claw.
Oh, I love that. The giant vulture.
That stupid bird.
Yes.
You can see the lines.
Are we watching MST3K with this, by chance at all?
Playing the movies and
The riff track?
That'd be great.
Awesome. See, I love the Invasion of the Saucer Man. I was a huge
Oh,
fan
with the
of it.
bug-eyed, big
Bug-eyed guys with midgets, and they got the claws and alcohol in them. They got the bull drunk. I mean, how cool is that? Get injection with alcohol.
I would welcome that alien invasion, I'm not gonna lie.
I would be every party. Some of the orange juice.
Has anybody else here seen an Australian movie called Black Sheep?
Yes.
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 That is zombie sheep. Really?
That's a stretch.
It's only the Australians.
You gotta wonder what they're drinking.
You know,
Zombie sheet.
We talk a lot about movies, and of course we're all authors. But stories can be launched in any medium. And probably the most overlooked medium is video games. And I remember 2 years ago I played Dead Space. And Dead Space is a scary video game. I mean, all this Silent Hill and some other ones have been sort of scary. But I talked to people in video game stores that couldn't finish Dead Space. And then it became a comic book, and that was cool. And then it became an animated movie. The movie wasn't as scary as the video game, but the video game was really scary. And it reminded me of the Star Wars Death Troopers. If you ever were familiar with that story of how the zombies broke out on the Star Destroyer, it's very similar to Dead Space. But that, they even bring in religion. So it's cool, and it was interesting to see a story kind of start as a video game and then spread into all the other mediums.
There's been several series that start as video games that are huge hits now. Resident Evil.
Yeah, but the video games aren't scary in Resident Evil. It's just fun. It's 1,000 corpses. You just click down zombies.
Well, Halo is a video game, it's a sci-fi video.
I mean, Doom.
You said
Yes.
Yeah, Doom was pretty scary. First-person shooter.
It was great, but if you got sick playing it, you got dizzy.
Yeah,
That was a series of books. Brad Lineweaver did a series of books on that.
Rock.
This is a movie of Rock.
Dwayne Johnson.
I just watched one the other day that reminded me a lot of House of the Dead. There's a film called Frankenstein's Army.
I heard that was actually pretty good.
It was really good, but when you were actually encountering creatures, it had that quick breakaway that the House of the Dead was famous for. It's like if you turn there, there's no, and you keep turning back. It got a little unnerving for an hour and a half.
Right.
For 45 minutes playing a video game, yeah, I can do that. But an hour and a half is just too much.
Yeah.
But you're right. We talk a lot about movies. We're authors. We should probably
Talk about video games.
Yeah, books.
We don't read books, we play video games.
We watch movies. Yeah. You're like,
Well,
I have no notes on books, I got plenty of movies.
Yeah.
All right, well, so I'll start it. I'll just, obviously, I'm going to go with, if you want to talk science fiction horror, I'm going to go with the master, H.P. Lovecraft. Here's a guy who sat down and realized that he was doing something different and transformed basic supernatural stories into a science fiction story and layered in horror on top of it, or maybe the other way around. But he was one of the first guys to do non-humanoid monsters, and he broke that mold. And the old ones from Antarctica, Cthulhu, all these things, this is great first usage of stepping beyond cowboys in space.
Color from Outer Space. I mean, yeah, Lovecraft's a master. If you haven't read Lovecraft, then what's wrong with you? You should be reading him. I mean, he's great. He has a style you can't read if you're trying to write something your own, because you'll try copying him. Nobody can do Lovecraft. He's kind of like Poe. Yeah, I know. He's kind of like Edgar Allan Poe and acid.
Yeah.
It was so creepy. He doesn't have to describe what's there. You can describe around it. Let your mind create the creature. But yeah, he's wonderful.
Yeah, I recall reading a Lovecraft story. I can't remember the title of it, but he's describing this rock that's fallen from space, and all of these people start getting sick that have come into contact with this rock, and he's describing things. Oh, what is it?
Color Out of Space.
Okay, but he's describing radiation sickness, and I feel like he wrote it in a period where we didn't know what radiation sickness was.
Most of the stuff like
But he might have.
He might have.
Because frankly, and I had to do some research on this. Madame Curie and her husband may likely died from radiation poisoning.
Okay, that's true.
Yes.
But it just seems so strange that he was writing about this stuff that's like, we haven't dropped the bomb yet.
Right.
How does he know
But
well?
there were people working with radioactive elements back in the turn of the century.
Okay.
And Lovecraft was this huge reader of science.
Yeah.
And astronomy, physics, all this stuff. He was really in the cutting edge. So he may have been able
to know what he was talking about.
Yeah.
No, it was the elder gods that told him what happened.
Does everybody have a favorite sci-fi horror movie or book or something that sticks in their mind?
There's so many I like. I've got I got 1,000 movies at home that they're all science fiction and horror. I'm big deep when it comes to the old classics. I'm a huge fan of the old Outer Limits TV series.
Yeah.
Because it was science fiction, but you had a monster every episode. They blended that, and at the end it wrapped it up and say, oh, mankind doesn't know crap. It's a bit bigger than all of us. Yeah, I love that kind of stuff. I grew up on it, and
I think what happened in the older genres, they were larger, and we've subdivided so much that True Blood isn't science fiction anymore. It's romantic vampires and sub. And stories, or made 30 years ago, True Blood would have been in sci-fi, but now it's not. It's a vampire subdivision. So a lot of the stuff that I like would have been considered science fiction years ago, but now it's something else. You know, I think I Am Legend. I Am Legend is science fiction horror. You know, I enjoy it. I like the book better. But
which movie didn't you like?
I don't like any of the movies as good as I like the book. I would have liked the latest one, but they turned the zombies into super zombies. If they'd have just made them Walking Dead or Dawn of the Dead, George Romero zombies, it would have been my best. But there's something wrong with every one of them.
sorry.
Well, no, I have a quick question because Neil Gaiman wrote a short story that crossed over Sherlock and Lovecraft genres, A Study in Emerald.
A Study in Emerald, yeah.
And, well, it's one of my favorite things in the world, but what are some of your favorite crossovers?
Okay, guys.
We're all stumped. Like between established characters or just
Established character crossovers.
Oh. Well, I mean, if we're opening up to just like random fan fiction we've read on the internet,
I don't think Neil Gaiman's random fan fiction.
Neil Gaiman's just got a name behind him, so his
Right.
fan fiction is like canon at this point.
Right.
Well, actually, because I write for there's an annual anthology called Tales of the Shadow Men, which takes characters from French science fiction, fantasy, and horror, and allows you to write anything you want about other French. So you can bring together Captain Nemo and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and Dr. Moreau, and as long as they're French, you can throw them together. It's actually one of my first published stories. I met Herbert West meets Christine Daae from Phantom of the Opera. So I love that genre. And of course, I think Alan Moore probably brought it to the forefront. Philip Jose Farmer was doing it for 40 years before that. If you were to pick a favorite, The Day King Kong Fell. You know this story?
That was just funny.
It's by Philip Jose Farmer. It's set in New York City on the day King Kong falls from the tower. But in the crowd, or the shadow, the guys flying the planes are the flying aces. You know, it's just filled with all these great pulp characters who were all there on that day, and will all be affected by it in their futures. So anyway, go ahead.
I'll say this. I'm not going to say I have an absolute favorite because I love the merger of the genre. But outside of the movie Oblivion, right, Radical Comics has some good stories that I like that were science fictional mashups. Two in particular come to mind. One is called City of Dust, and it's in the future where cops have jetpack suits, and it's so far in the future that vampires, werewolves, and Frankenstein are banned stories, almost erased from your memory, like they tried to do Freddy Krueger. And somebody finds a book, and these characters start coming back to life, and it's a fun story set in the future. And then they have another one called Hot Wire, where it's a biker girl, tattoo girl, rides a motorcycle, and she fights ghosts that can feed off energy, and they move objects, and they become robots and different other collected monsters, and it's really cool. And that was a two-run series, and now they're just making movies, but hopefully that story will come into a book.
I had read a book over the summer. It was called Map of the Sky. It was really interesting. It took place, it has H.G. Wells in the story, who's actually trying to stop a Martian invasion that had begun because of something similar to who goes there. There's an alien who's been dug up in the Arctic. He's in the British Museum, all preserved, etc. And something happens where he gets reanimated. It had so many different sort of twists to it and things. It was really well written, and it was a lot of cross genre, and the descriptions of what the aliens do to people when they basically they're harvesting them. Really, it was pretty horrifying too. But it had a good mix of science fiction, time travel, and everything else. It was about that thick too.
There's been several stories and movies that have Sherlock Holmes as a time traveler that I've really enjoyed, where he's modern trying to fight the arch rival. New series Sleepy Hollow I'm loving, because you've got the Headless Horseman coming. Ichabod Crane into modern times. They're putting that whole twist on it where the Headless Horseman formed the Four Horsemen Apocalypse.
Yes.
Very good series. I'm enjoying the heck out of that one.
Yes, we are.
As far as, to your question, as far as stories that have cross-genre and stuff, I have one simple response, and that's just Wolfman's Got Nards.
Monster. Which is instant.
Yeah, some of you will get it, and the other ones will go home sad.
I love that.
I mean, what about science fiction makes it horror for you? I mean, is it the fact that it's unknown, or, I mean, what really causes chills to go down your spine? What causes sci-fi to cross over into horror for you guys?
For me, it's the whole dark element or the danger. Classic science fiction, 2001, Space Odyssey. That whole time where HAL 9000 is taking over. And that quiet conversation let me back in. He's like, no, what are you doing? And here's this computer getting that intelligence. Now, it's not a useful servant of man. It's a danger to mankind. So that right there crossed over from science fiction into the horror genre. Because it was scary. It was suspense. And they drug it out where it was painfully slow. And you were sitting there just, come on. You knew he's in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Or, aliens, I mean, the whole alien franchise, you've got a creature trying to eat you in space. In space, no one can hear you scream, which I thought was the greatest line ever.
I thought was in space nobody can have ice cream.
That explains the movie so much better.
Al, I was confused. For a long time, I thought that was the greatest line, but I recently saw an alternate tagline for The Thing. John Carpenter's The Thing, is man is the warmest place to hide.
Yes, I've seen
And
that.
I'd not seen that back when the movie came
Yeah.
out, but I recently saw that as an alternate. I was like, oh, that's just good.
That's just classic horror. I mean, The Fly with Jeff Goldblum. I mean, that became from science fiction with the scientist rooting for to this hideous monster. And it crossed over, halfway through the picture. And it was very well done. Even the original Fly, I mean, the last scene where you've got the half fly, half human in a spider web, and the spider's about to eat him. That's terrifying. You hear a little scream, too. Help me, yeah. That'll send chills down your back, especially when you're 10 years old. Yes, sir.
Just want to jump back to H.P. Lovecraft real quick. Seeing as how he's been around for a while, he's always had, it seems like, a cult following, and then it's grown and grown and grown. Why do you think it is that Hollywood has never been able to make a decent, they don't understand it, or they don't have enough money to actually engage in it?
It's money, and it's always been money.
And I'd say understanding too, because I mean, Guillermo del Toro has been trying to get at the Mountains of Madness made for so long, and I feel like he can't get the money because people that would have enough money to do it don't understand it and they don't think they would be able to make money off of it, so they don't want to take a chance.
Lovecraft did not write feel-good comedy.
No, he did not. Well, okay, so the deal with, from what I understand with Mountains of Madness is they wanted a PG-13 rating.
Yeah, and he wants an R.
He wants an R.
Yeah.
He needs an R to tell that movie story right. And he's right. Right? But R movies don't make a lot of money.
Yeah.
You know,
No, PG has a bigger audience.
Yeah, because anybody can go see it.
right.
Stuart Gordon did several H.P. Lovecraft movies that were very good. There's one I can title here, I can't remember.
Reanimator from Beyond.
There's a
Rider
fishing
Reanimator.
Castle.
Dagon.
Dagon is
Dagon.
an excellent movie.
Yeah.
It's very creepy.
Yeah.
Who is the actor who wants to do Rendezvous with Rama?
No. Who wants to do?
Who is the actor? who
Isn't it
wants-
Morgan Freeman?
Yes, Morgan Freeman wants to do Rendezvous with Rama, which would be an epic science fiction movie. Except when you read the book, I mean, I love the book, but basically, nothing really happens in it. They find the big cylinder, they go inside, and they find it's deserted. And when they find it's going to leave out of Earth orbit, they get off of it.
On cable television, as far as that goes, because you've got a lot. It seems like nobody does miniseries anymore, unless you're actually watching HBO, which is basically what you get. You get a miniseries every year with like Game of Thrones.
Okay, so I will tell you this. We're talking to HBO. Because they wanted to look at this. The problem is that my book. Okay. We're talking to HBO because and they're looking at it because it takes 25 years. So if you try to do a movie, you end up failing like Dune did, because you all have to compress everything into 15 minutes. Oh, look, he's an adult now. So if you're going to do this, we have to talk miniseries or series. And so we're looking at that. It's very tentative. I don't think it's going to work. The money's just not there. But that's the direction we're going to go. I think the same thing. Have you seen Call of Cthulhu?
You're talking about
The silent.
The silent film.
Yes.
Yes. They've done Whisper in Darkness. They're working on another one now. They do excellent work, and they prove that you can do it on a shoestring budget. The money's there. It just, you have to look for a return. And if you look at what Hollywood considers success, E.T. was a success, The Thing was a failure. It came out the same year. Which one do you still watch? I still watch The Thing. Nobody watches E.T. anymore. The same thing can be said of after, what's his name? Tim Burton made his first movie for Disney, they fired him. Now Nightmare on Elm Street is shown every year, and it's a cash cow.
Nightmare Before Christmas.
Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah. I missed that.
Yeah.
I was
Okay.
like, Tim Burton did Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah, Nightmare Before Christmas. The flip side is like we all love Kevin Smith movies, right? Mm-hmm. When what's his name got cast in they make a porno movie.
Zach and Miri make a porno.
He's on his phone with his agent saying, Kevin Smith wants me. And his agent's like, yeah, Kevin Smith hasn't turned a profit in decades. And he doesn't. He doesn't turn a profit in the theater.
In the box office, but
Right.
he does it on DVD sales.
He does it on
all the
DVD
time.
sales and promotional.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you noticed that you haven't seen Pacific Rim toys yet?
right.
Because it didn't do well over here. Yeah.
But we're going to save them for the season
Yeah.
because that's where all that money's going to be made.
Yeah, there's some movies that just flat out, I mean, there's some movies in terms of remakes that just never have been made into a remake, like The Day the Earth Stood Still. I kept waiting for Keanu Reeves to say, excellent.
What did you think about War of the Worlds?
The original?
Actually, not nearly the remake you're talking about, the Steven Spielberg. It was not nearly as terrible as I thought it would be.
I just can't drive. I can't get around the plot hole. The giant ship buried for thousands of years and nobody notices.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I turned my brain off for that part, I guess. I don't know.
It was eye candy. It was very,
Exactly.
The beginning was very, very good. It was very tense. I love the whole storm coming. And,
Right.
Yeah, the thing coming up out of the ground. Yeah, I'd be wetting myself about that time. Running away, zombies, survival thing.
But I like the second attempt at Planet of the Apes. that to me was what remaking and revisioning should be. It brought in where we are right now. It brought in animal cruelty, a whole lot of things that weren't a part of any of the previous Planet of the Apes movies, any of the Planet of the Apes stories. So for me, if it can be done, let's do it. I love, stories and retelling them if you can do them right,
I want somebody to make a remake of Dem.
Oh, the giant ants?
Yeah.
It'd have to be Chinese though.
Well, they could be like, from Chernobyl or something, Radioactive giant ants.
Dawn of the Dead was a good remake.
I'll agree with you on
It's still
that.
scary today.
I want to see a
I mean,
remake.
that was a good movie.
Giant killer bunnies. It's a great movie. It's like a series.
All right, so there's a
John Cleese would star in it.
Attack of the Killer Shrews.
Dogs with fake fangs.
Do you consider King Kong a horror? Because I like the remake, and sure, it didn't get scary until he was chasing them, but it was scary in some of the extra scenes that he didn't show in the theater, like when they fell into that crevice and them sucky bugs was coming after them.
Sucky
That was scary, and so that's another remake, and I like all the King Kongs.
Well, I mean, I guess that depends on whether or not you can, because King Kong I would definitely consider a monster film, but where is a monster film part of the horror genre? Is it part of the sci-fi genre? Like
The original, I call King Kong, the original King Kong's a fairy tale.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah,
It's
that actually
a
makes
genius
all
movie.
sense. Yeah.
But the original King Kong's terrifying. I mean, when he
Yeah.
shows up to giant gates and you get to see King Kong for the first time, it's tremendous. It was a great effort.
I mean,
And
you
you
take
can look at ice skating.
Even
No
the-
ice skating.
No ice
Even the island that they were on in the remake was scary. Skull Island,
That was
the
creepy.
people that lived there, they weren't the Native Americans on the shore of America.
We've got about 5 minutes here, guys, so I'm going to ask for final comments about this wonderful genre, mixing of science fiction and horror. Any final thoughts? Any comments from anybody? We're going to wrap it up.
What about the movie or TV series?
Series?
Yeah, another one where they're after our water.
Not our
We're
door.
nice guys. No, you're not. You're lizards.
They're reptiles in sci-fi.
Well, what do you think about the remake of it, though? How they did the remake.
They died on the vine.
They had the original V with those little ships and stuff like that, but then they did a remake where the bottom of the ship was like a reflective surface.
Yeah, I missed it.
I'll say my conclusion on it. As with Aliens, it is a good mixture. As with Prometheus, you need to be respectful because it is a risky mixture too. It's not something that always naturally goes together, and when you blend in science fiction and horror, it is, if you're trying to dedicate it, it's not easy.
I would agree with that. I would say years of reading science fiction and watching movies made me what I am. That's why I can write this, because I grew up on it.
I mean, it's just, I love all of them. Especially the fiction branch of fiction writing is, beautiful to me. And then science fiction and horror going together, the way that they melt, it's like fondue. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. It's delicious to watch, delicious to read. And, even the alien aspect, it's fun to play. Playing something like Halo where you get the flood coming.
Right.
And that brings a horror aspect you didn't expect when you bought the game. So as this kid, a teenager playing this game, and I ended up getting scared through it. So it's, the mixture of genres is just a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I pretty much would say the same as what Chris said. Like, I grew up on classic horror movies and classic sci-fi 50s movies and whatnot. Just somewhere along the mix, I watched a lot of porn too. But I just love the mixing of the genres, regardless of what they are. It's just singular genres are kind of
phasing out. And I think, like you said, True Blood, it would have been considered sci-fi. Now it's vampire, supernatural, paranormal romance with fairies and other things. It's just been so
But they got,
so
they
diluted
got sex
down.
for you, so.
Right.
They go, what?
They got sex for
And,
you.
yeah, you could call it pornography in the sense.
We
because
ain't
it's
seen
pretty
no ugly
graphic.
werewolves.
Yeah. But there's just, I mean, it opens up so many, because there are certain cliches and certain formulas that you have to follow with any given genre. The more genres you blend together, the more you have options to explore and come up with something new and creative, and that is where the fun is for me. Where it's just like, heck with rules. Just write something that's original and new and isn't constrained by the boundaries of any one genre.
I'm a huge fan of science fiction and horror genre. I mean, I'm a geek from way back when. Nothing makes me happier than a Saturday night home beverage, popping in a movie on my DVD player, watching Crawling Eye or The Saucer Man. Or it's wonderful. I hope they continue to make movies like that. Because as long as they do, I'll continue to buy them and watch them.
Yeah, from my point of view, I watch films, I read books. I think gross out and surprise are easy. It's easy to do that. I think terror and fear are hard, and a lot of movies and books are going for that gross out and for the surprise. And when you walk away, you're done. I want to read stuff that wakes you up in the middle of the night going, oh crap, that's what that was meant, and that's how that felt. And some of the older stuff really did that. And now it's rarer, but it's out there still. And those are the things I value the most.
Let me just throw in one thing. All of us up here are authors. All of us have books with us. So if we totally fascinate you, and you would like to see more of what we do, you're welcome. Your dollars are welcome here.
Just throw your money up on stage. We'll
Are you
give
gonna
something.
dance?
Huh?
Are you gonna dance?
He is a monkey.
Depends on
He is
who
a
you
monkey.
throw up.
I will get naked to sell a book.
Oh.
Not with me just sitting here. You're not happening.
I'll get naked with him to sell his
I'm
book.
not selecting either one of you. Thank you, everybody, for coming here.
Yeah.
Catch us in the hallway. That was rehearsal.